Hey everybody, welcome back to Videogames. So here I got another fun episode for you guys this Friday because we now have more games running on the MiSTer M92 Irem core. Martin or Wickerwaka has updated the core file as well as added some MRA files for games that weren't working last time. And by the time you watch this video, it's possible maybe one or two more have come. But it's amazing to get new games on MiSTer, especially on the Irem M92. But before we get too far involved, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe. That notification bell definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, the biggest game that is currently running now is going to be Ninja Baseball Batman. When I say this game is a fever dream of absolute absurdity, I 100% mean it, but I mean it in a really positive way, because this is an absolutely spectacular beat-em-up game for two players, and it also is one of the strangest beat-em-up games I have ever played. But it is as weird as you've heard, and it's also as good as you've heard, and it is amazing here on MiSTer. Wickerwaka has done an incredible job getting this game running on the core, and I will show you some comparisons to MAME in a little bit. Normally I don't compare work-in-progress cores to existing things, but Wickerwaka asked me to show an example of how the core was running differently to MAME, and I wanted to do that for him. But this game is just wild. You are fighting a baseball bat that kind of looks like a Thanksgiving turkey, and this game in part is 100% vibing with baseball, but towards the end of the game the whole baseball theme kind of just drops completely, outside of being a robot who's also a baseball player. And this player right here, Straw, is inspired by Darryl Strawberry, the professional athlete. And I will say, I've been to plenty of Cubs games, and this is exactly how baseball works in real life. I've seen this 100 times. All jokes aside, the gameplay on Ninja Baseball Batman is so much fun, and it is working exactly as I would expect it to here on MiSTer. Everything is playing extremely well, there's absolutely no lag in the controls. This is just the Ninja Baseball Batman so many people know and love, except it is running better currently in the alpha stage on MiSTer FPGA than it does via software emulation, and that is not in any way, shape, or form a dig or strike against MAME. They do incredible work, and there's so many things they have to make work. But take a look at the intro from MAME here, and you're going to start seeing some flashing going on in these scrolls. If we go back over to the exact same section in the current MiSTer FPGA core, you're going to see that all of those flashes stop. It's doing everything slightly better, and if we go into the intro, right here, you'll see that the masking or the letterboxing is not working correctly and you get some flashing. Or if we go over to the MiSTer core, outside of some garbage on the right hand side of the screen, that letterbox mask is there as it should be. So we're getting better replication of the original hardware on MiSTer currently, and it is still a work-in-progress core. And like I said, I don't normally compare things that are not finished, but I was asked to, and of course I wanted to do it. But if you just look at this game in motion, it has absolutely nothing to do with baseball whatsoever, but it also has everything to do with baseball whatsoever, because you have this balls-style enemy right here. If you remember that game, leave me a comment down below. It's a terrible fighting game, and he is just made up of blue baseballs. But then you get to the next area, and you are fighting what looks like off characters from Squidbillies with goggles on, while these baseballs basically just serve drinks in a bow tie and sweep the floor on the ground. But then once you get to stage 3, you're in Las Vegas and you're fighting playing cards. Not much to do with baseball whatsoever, but this game is iconic. It is fun, it's action filled, it's an absolute blast from start to finish that you're just going to be laughing the entire time. You're also having fun. And if you actually want an original PCB for this board, I'm going to tell you right now, you need to bring your wallet and your friend's wallet too, because they are not giving them away. But one of my favorite parts about Ninja Baseball Batman is the soundtrack, and right now on MiSTer it is still a little bit quiet in the work-in-progress core, so I have lifted the audio levels about 12 to 13 decibels, but go ahead and listen to the soundtrack for like 45 seconds, and I'll come back and tell you what else is currently running on the core. Amazing soundtrack, and it already sounds amazing on MiSTer. But moving over to the next game that didn't work last video that does now is going to be GunForce 2. And in the original video on the work in progress M92 core, I said that out of the two GunForce games, the second one is the much better entry in the series, and you can now play it today on MiSTer. Now to date, these still are manually installed cores, and if you need help, you can either join the official MiSTer Discord or leave me a comment down below and ask for an invite to my Discord as well. And I had to turn off the invites because we were having a little bit of an issue, but hopefully that's resolved soon. But again, another spectacular game, and this basically in a lot of ways feels like the precursor to Metal Slug on the Neo Geo. It has all of the same vibes and it even has some of the same sound effects, but it's running exactly as it should on original hardware. Now you will see that there's a ton of slowdown on this game. That is not on the FPGA side, that is inherent to the original arcade board as well. Irem never really seemed to care about slowdown whatsoever. They wanted to put as much action on the screen as possible, and if the frame rate went to a slideshow, the hell with it, they didn't care whatsoever. So when you see this slowdown, don't think it's an issue with the FPGA core, just realize that's how the developers and designers at Irem decided they wanted to do it. But you can see here, just like Metal Slug, we're going to get vehicles to ride around on. And again, this is a deeper cut game. Pretty much every single game on the Irem M92 and most of Irem's games that are not called R-Type are going to be some of the deeper cuts in arcade gaming history, and that means they're all extremely hard to find and expensive arcade boards to own. And that is why having the M92 core on MiSTer is incredible as well, because even if you go to your standard arcade, the odds of seeing any of these games is feeling like 0%. You would have to go to a really specialized arcade, like somewhere in Japan or Galloping Ghost, which thankfully is about 45 minutes from my house, to see any of these arcade boards on the show floor. And honestly, most of these games never got ported home either, so it's not like you can just download them onto your Xbox or PlayStation 5 and go ahead and play. So MiSTer is really going to be the most accurate experience you're ever going to get outside of owning and collecting extremely expensive and rare arcade boards, a hobby that I love and I really don't recommend to that many people whatsoever. It gets stupid after a while. And as we've gotten through this first boss here, I just love all the artwork, all of that flickering in the fire in the background, and the core as it currently sits is drawing all those graphics extremely well. I played through the first 3 stages of GunForce 2 and I saw absolutely no issues whatsoever. I couldn't hear anything, I couldn't see anything, and as far as the controls and latency were concerned, it felt like playing real hardware, and that is my best review of this core, even though it isn't done and I'm not reviewing it whatsoever. If there are any problems, I cannot detect them, and I've played a lot of GunForce 2. What I can tell you, another amazing soundtrack. Go ahead and listen and I'll be right back. Again, just sounds exactly like I would expect, and as we see the boss fight here, it just works. That's what I'm currently experiencing with the work in progress M92 core, is all of the games seem to just work perfectly fine, or they don't work whatsoever. And I will show a couple games that are currently not working on the core via MAME capture towards the end of the video. And now that we've talked about GunForce 2, let's move on to the next addition since we last talked about this Irem board, and that is going to be Lethal Thunder, a game that sounds like it should have Mel Gibson and Danny Glover fighting crime, but is actually a spaceship shmup. And you will see that it is a Tate mode game, so don't forget, if you are playing it in video modes, you can go to that vertical screen orientation, or you can turn a 4x3 television on its side, whatever makes you happy. Now, I'm not going to blow smoke up your you-know-what and tell you every single game on the Irem M92 board is a hidden gem 10 out of 10 Hall of Fame first ballot good game. This game, it's fine. It's not something I'm going to spend a lot of time with. It's not something that you're going to see show up on the best shmups of all time lists, but it is a competent game that has a lot going for it and is an intriguing title that I feel like a lot of people probably just have never checked out before. And that's the fun thing about MiSTer. Not every single core is going to be on those best games of all time lists. Some things are going to be really deep cuts like Lethal Thunder right here, but maybe you're going to find a game that you really enjoy that you never heard of before. And trust me, if you want to find an arcade board for this, it's not cheap and it's not easy to find. So from a preservation standpoint alone, the fact that this now exists on MiSTer is 100% a great time, and it does have some interesting mechanics that once you get the hang of do give some intrigue to the game. You will see that power meter on the left hand side. The faster you tap the fire button, the higher that goes, and when it gets to full, you can use your thunder attack to hit the screen and get multiple enemies at once. There is no limit on how many times you can use it. You just need to make sure you chain those attacks and that your bullet's hitting something to get it up into the full range. And I will say that that is actually a really interesting mechanic. I can't say that it's perfect, but it is a lot of forward thinking sort of design that could have been a little bit better, but it's probably the first time I've ever seen anything like this. Leave me a comment down below if you know another shmup that uses that system. But again, on the mechanical side, all of the sprites, all of the background layers, all of the parallax just seem to be working. Now, it's been a very long time since I played an original arcade board for this, probably 10 years or so there could be some issues that I just can't see, but honestly, there is nothing glaring whatsoever, so it's another instance where if there are any problems with this core, I certainly can't see them. But if this is your favorite game of all time, if you do see something, leave me a comment down below because I would be curious. And I'd also really be curious as to who has played this game before, who loves it, who thinks it's decent, and who is planning on playing it after you've seen it in this video, because even if it's not perfect, there's still a lot of fun to be had here. And one of the main reasons I love the MiSTer project is that it is comprehensive. Somebody like Martin Wickerwaka makes an M92 core, and they could just make stuff like R-Type Leo, In the Hunt, GunForce 2, and Ninja Baseball Batman work, and people would be happy. Stuff like this game right here, if he ignored it completely, nobody would probably really miss it that much. But from a preservation standpoint, it's amazing to have this core. Projects like MAME, projects like MiSTer keep these games alive and allow people to play them. Because even though I love original hardware, and contrary to popular belief, I do not own everything, it's great to have these here. Now, two games currently that aren't working that maybe by the time you hear this is Major Title or Irem Skins. Now, this is a really fun golf game. It's definitely not Neo Turf Masters, but it is a fun time, and it is going to be great when this is running. Currently, according to Wickerwaka, you can get it running if you manually build an RBF file, but if you're just taking from GitHub right now, it is currently not really working on MiSTer. But that's fine, he'll get around to it. And another game that currently is not working is Superior Soldier, and I will say this game is just bad, and Catty Docs here, do not know what type of name that is whatsoever, has an idle animation that basically makes her look like a character out of Clay Fighter. If she has a spine, she definitely does not use it, and while it is fun that this will work on MiSTer FPGA in the future, trust me, you really are not missing much whatsoever. But take a look at this animation. I don't know how she moves her body like that, it just does not seem natural. But don't forget from the previous video, In the Hunt, one of my favorite shmups of all time, absolutely 100% working. I played it from start to finish, and it feels like original hardware. If you've never played this game before, you 100% owe it to yourself. Run, don't walk to your MiSTer and play it today. Of course, we talked about GunForce 2, but the original GunForce is working as well. If GunForce 2 is an A tier title, then GunForce the original is probably a B+, definitely worth your time. On the beat 'em up front, we have Blade Master, an absolutely gorgeous game and a ton of fun, but probably one of the most difficult beat 'em ups I've ever played, but still amazing to have on MiSTer, of course. And speaking of beat 'em ups, Hook, definitely not my favorite movie of all time, but a really competent beat 'em up. I'd probably say this is another B+ tier effort on something like the M92, and probably the biggest heavy hitter in my opinion is going to be R-Type Leo, an absolutely spectacular shmup, an extremely rare arcade board, and an extremely expensive arcade board, running exactly as I would expect on MiSTer FPGA today. But that is the Irem M92 update. Wickerwaka has done an amazing job of quickly adding cores to MiSTer for this platform, and I know he's going to keep working on it. Maybe it'll be done next week, maybe it'll be done next month, maybe it'll be done next year, but what we currently have is incredible. Go ahead and leave me a comment down below and tell me what the next arcade platform you'd love to see on MiSTer is, but I'll have another video next Thursday. I'll have videos throughout the week as well, but I'll see you next time. Bye bye.